Hello and welcome to Economics and a Joke. This video just looks at the market structure of monopoly. It's found within Theory of the Firm, which is Unit 1.5. So monopoly is a market that's characterized by a number of different criteria. There's a single seller in the market. There's no close substitutes for the product. Most important of all probably is the fact that there are very strong barriers to entry. These barriers to entry can manifest themselves in a number of ways, and the important thing about them is that they are stopping new firms from entering the marketplace. The stronger the barriers to entry, the stronger the market power that the firm is likely to have. Consequence of having barriers to entry, strong market power, is a monopoly firm can find itself making long-run profit, both in the short run and the long run. You see this diagram here. This is a market equilibrium for monopoly. The firm is looking at the point here where marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue. So that's where it sets its equilibrium output, point at which it maximizes profits. The price that it's going to charge, that's determined by the demand curve or the average revenue curve. So that price is up here. And the important thing to know about this diagram is that the way that it's been drawn, the average cost curve is below the demand curve to this point, and it means that the average costs of production are below the average revenue. So from the point of view of the firm's total revenue of this particular price and output, I can trace that as this rectangle here. That's the total revenue for the firm. And the total cost for the firm I can trace as this smaller rectangle here. So the rectangle we've got in between them we can call supernormal profit, abnormal profit, monopoly profit. And this profit will be maintained into the long run, because even though it's an attractive firm or industry for other entrepreneurs to consider, it's not possible for them to enter this market because of the strong barriers to entry. Other things to note about this diagram, the average cost curve does reach a minimum when it cuts the marginal cost, which is just here. But it is possible as well that the firm could make a loss in monopoly, and we would just draw that with the average cost curve above the demand and the average revenue curve. So in this particular situation, the firm is making a loss equal to this red shaded area here. In terms of economic efficiency, what often happens with monopoly is that you're asked to contrast it with the situation in perfect competition. Remember, in perfect competition, it was most efficient market structure. There we achieved both allocative efficiency and we achieved productive efficiency. Here in monopoly, we don't achieve either. So if we go back to that diagram, we can see here when long run abnormal profits are being made, the price, which is shown at this point here on the diagram, at that level of output, is larger than the marginal cost. The marginal cost here, the point where quantity line cuts the marginal cost curve. It's not marked on the diagram, but if I trace the cursor across, that would be the marginal cost at this particular level of output, and the price is clearly above it. So in terms of economic efficiency, price is greater than marginal cost. Basically what this means is that as price reflects the utility or the satisfaction that consumers receive, we're saying that the utility received by the consumption of this quantity is larger than the cost to society, and by that I mean the full opportunity cost to society of producing the product. It's clearly a product that we like and we need and we want. It doesn't cost society that much to produce. So at this level of output that the monopoly produces, we could argue that we're underproducing this particular product. We should produce more of it. It's something that provides utility that's greater than the marginal cost of producing it. More resources should be moved into the production of this product. The point of view of the producer, it doesn't care either way. The producer's maximizing profits. So for them, a knowledge that is allocative inefficiency is irrelevant to them. We also look at efficiency in terms of productive efficiency. And in productive efficiency, we're looking at the point at which the firm is producing on the long run average cost curve. What you can see here is that the firm is producing on the downward part of the long run average cost curve. There's the minimum point, so it's producing here. It's not producing at minimum cost, it's not producing productively efficiency, efficiently. And again, from the point of view of the firm, it doesn't matter to them. They're maximising profits. They don't mind if they're inefficient. So you might be asked, as I said, to compare perfect competition and monopoly, and there's a number of ways to do it. This diagram is one way. What you want to show with this diagram is that if we were looking at the monopoly solution, equilibrium, is a QM and a price at PM, with a point where marginal cost equals marginal revenue. But we know in perfect competition, marginal revenue is the same as average revenue, and so the point at which marginal cost equals marginal revenue is this point here, Y, and we notice that the price charged in perfect competition is going to be lower than the price charged in monopoly, and the output that we produce in perfect competition is larger than the output produced in monopoly. So we would argue that the perfectly competitive solution, or a more competitive market, is a better solution than having a situation where there's one firm dominating the industry. Often in a discuss, evaluate question, though, you might be asked to question whether or not monopoly is considered to be sort of bad in a general sense. And there are some advantages put forward for monopoly. We may see an improvement in the product because the firm has got the resources to put into research and development, and therefore they can spend the money on new technology or researching drug research for the pharmaceutical industry, for example. There's also the natural monopoly argument, which will be dealt with in a separate video. And then finally, there's an argument to do with economies of scale. Economies of scale can be demonstrated on this diagram here. I mean, basically, the very, very large firms are able to produce at a much lower cost due to economies of scale than even perhaps more competitive firms can. Amazon is a very good example of this. It dominates the industry for online retail. They're able to produce at a much lower cost than perhaps a more competitive market would. And you can see on this diagram the monopoly marginal cost curve has shifted to the right. And so their equilibrium point where marginal cost equals marginal revenue is here. And that turns out to be at a lower price and a higher output than a more competitive market solution might demonstrate. Now we come to the joke. I was reading a book the other day about anti-gravity. I found that I couldn't put it down.